Today we're in San Diego's Presidio Park to check out a location that if you look on Google Maps, it's listed as the Witch's Tower. We're going to explore that place, check out its history, and explain why it's really not what it seems. And here's one of the El Camino Real bells. Not only was Presidio Park the birthplace of San Diego in 1769, but it was also the start of the El Camino Real auto trail. It started right here at Presidio Park and wound its way up the coast following the route of the missions. Later, the Highway 101 replaced most of El Camino Real, and Presidio Park's not actually on Highway 101. Highway 101 is, or was, just a little bit to the west of here, and it went through Old Town San Diego before moving a little further west to what is Pacific Highway now.
Easily the most prominent feature at Presidio Park is the Father Junipero Serra Museum, which is located on top of the hill. From the museum you can get excellent views of the San Diego Bay and the Mission Valley area of San Diego. Some people mistakenly refer to the building as a mission, though that is incorrect. The Presidio site was in use from 1769 until 1835, and the museum wasn't built until 1929, though it was built in the Spanish mission style. The museum is a great place if you want to learn more about the history of the Presidio site, early San Diego, or early California. But what we are here for today is actually located below the museum, next to its parking lot.
From the Presidio parking lot, if you look to the southwest, you'll find what is known as the Witch's Tower. And here is the so-called Witch's Tower, which is really not much of a tower and has nothing to do with witches, but I'll get to why it's called the Witch's Tower in just a moment. First, let's take a look at the monument for Sylvester Pattie, which is on this building. So Sylvester Pattie was a pathfinder. He was on an expedition into New Mexico, and his expedition came further west. They got to Santa Catarina, which is in Ensenada, Mexico, or where Ensenada, Mexico is now, and was arrested. The Mexican governor thought that they might be spies for Spain, so they were brought here to San Diego, and they were held in a prison. Now, there's a lot of websites that claim that they were held in this building. That is not true at all. The reason that the plaque is here is because the prison that they were kept in is nearest to this site, but this building is not original to the mission or to the Presidio that was here. This building was built in the 1930s, so they definitely were not kept inside this building, and he definitely did not die inside this building. But he did die in 1828 and was buried here. There's a plaque for him down here from the United States Daughters of 1812 that's kind of covered under the ground. And so somewhere around here, Sylvester Pattie is buried. His actual gravesite is not known, but supposedly the first American to be buried in California was buried right around here somewhere. So now we're going to go up and I'll show you why that this place is called the Witch's Tower. The wall around here represents the wall of the old fort. Like I said, this is not original. It was built much later. There's no original buildings remaining from the original Presidio site. So everything here is a recreation or just added later. So here we are at the Witch's Tower top. And as you can see, there's a big pentagram in the middle, and that's why this is known as the Witch's Tower. And you'll see people have done some artwork with eyeballs, and you can see the middle of it. It looks like there has at least been a fire here at one point. Apparently some other weird things have happened on the top of here. there's reports that people have found dead bodies and stuff like that, but I don't believe any of that's true. I looked through the San Diego Union Tribune's archives, and there has been no mention of it at all. You do have a good view of the buildings up there, and you can get a pretty interesting view of the park. This is actually a recreation of a bastion for the fort. Has nothing to do with witches, was never a jail. Sylvester Pattie was not kept here, and the building is less than 100 years old, so it's not even original. This is always claimed to be one of the most haunted places in San Diego for people who are believers in that stuff, and there are definitely lots of bodies buried throughout here. The original cemetery for the Spanish and the Kumeyaay was up here. The Kumeyaay Indians actually buried people in this area up until the late 1800s. The last non-Native American burial up here was in 1849, and at that point they had built the Campo Santo Cemetery, which I did a video on previously, which I'll link to in the description. But that cemetery opened, and the one up here stopped being in use after that for non-Native Americans. Native Americans continued to bury people up here just a little bit later. And here's another look at the front. I'm not sure what's in there. It looks pretty empty. And here's another look at the Witch's Tower from the side. And as I mentioned, aside from the pentagram at the top, which nobody really knows why that is there, there's nothing really sinister or witch-related in regards to this tower. It's just a recreation of a bastion. As mentioned, none of the original structures from the Presidio site are still around. Everything here is a recreation. But if you come out into the middle, you can find these mounds where the remains of some of the structures would be buried under the ground here. And that wall, once again, it is the outline of the original Presidio site.
Exploring Presidio Park could definitely take up its own video because there is so much to see and do there. And every time I go, I find something new that I hadn't seen before, such as this time capsule that won't be opened until San Diego's 300th anniversary in 2069. As this was the site of the first European settlement in California, so much history happened at the Presidio Park site, though it's important to remember that most of the buildings were built in the 1930s by the Works Progress Administration. And that includes the sinister sounding, but fairly innocent Witch's Tower, whose legend has continued to grow, largely thanks to Google Maps. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.